episode of Halftime Adjustments. Your host, Eddie Arnell, my man, G. Witt across the way. What's up, G?
Tighten up, baby. Tighten up.
Tighten up, man. It's first full week of pads in the books. And in the week 2, man. And, football is right around the corner. So a lot of things happened this past week. We got a lot to talk about tonight, G.
You think?
A lot to discuss on this episode. So sit back, relax, join us, get your comments in, get your questions in, and let's do it, man. So,
all right.
Right off the bat, let me start with the good news first. Let's start with the good news. So, did we solve the backup quarterback position? Well, apparently it might be resolved in some aspects with the signing of Trevor Siemian to a 1-year deal. And so, girl, we talked about that a little bit last week because we had some questions over the last couple of weeks about they brought in him and Deshaun Kaiser for workouts, and people want to know what we thought about that. And so they pulled the trigger, signed Trevor Siemian, cut Cole McDonald. And so your thoughts on that move?
Well, in all honesty, even though last week we said it probably wasn't much to it, just being prudent. But the bottom line is, obviously, what you saw was the fact that Cole McDonald actually, they knew. Well, let's put it like this: they knew he wasn't going to compete for the backup job. They automatically knew that. So rather than have somebody like Logan Woodside be comfortable, and even to that point, Ryan Tannehill, you have to bring somebody in who's going to at least push them to be better. I mean, because let's think about it. That's one of the issues we had with Mariota for his first 4 years. There was really nobody there to push him to get better. So they bring in Tannehill, and we saw, even though last year I think he had some injury issues that they just didn't bring out, you saw where Tannehill came in and performed better. Well, you got to have somebody like Trevor Siemian come in, who's a pro, who started in the league. Matter of fact, we got to see him play a few years ago when Denver came to Nashville, and we had to play against them then, and we beat them. But and that was, if I'm not mistaken, Mike Mularkey's first full season as head coach. So, yeah, I mean, they had to bring him in, man. They had to bring in somebody. I think it's a good move. I posted on my own Facebook page, I posted a commentary by Greg Cosell about him, and he brought out one good point. He said he's a systems quarterback, and he needs a running game in order to function well. He doesn't really push the ball, drive the ball the way Tannehill can, but he can get the ball out there and get it out there on time. So at least if our offense, if anything happens with Tannehill, we'll at least be functional.
Right. And
that's the main thing.
Exactly. You want somebody that can that's got that experience already, and been in the system, and like you say, he's a system quarterback and can provide a decent backup plan if Tannehill does go down. So just a little bit about him. Like you said, he played for the Broncos. He was drafted in 2015 in the 7th round,
right,
out of Northwestern University. He did get a Super Bowl ring backing up Peyton Manning, and that when the Broncos beat the Panthers in Super Bowl 50.
Right.
He's played with the Vikings, and the Jets suffered a season-ending injury last year when he took a low hit from Myles Garrett. 2016 is when he really came to fruition, like you mentioned. Started 14 games, had an 8-6 record with the Broncos, which is not bad. Threw for over 3,400 yards, 18 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. So again, serviceable. He's got some experience, and he's got some intangibles that he can bring to the table.
Yeah, if there's a drawback to him, the biggest thing you're going to notice, other than the fact that he doesn't drive the ball like Tannehill, he is more stationary.
Yeah.
So, it really, if there's a change in the offense, it would be probably more quick routes, getting the ball out a lot faster to keep him from getting hit, because he's not going to be one that's going to run and make up extra yards and everything. So the ball's going to come out quick and on time. Ahead of time, really. He's going to really lead receivers and everything to get the ball to him. But at least we know now we have a decent backup plan, as opposed to what we were facing with Logan, the unknowns we were facing with Logan Woodside and Cole McDonald. Even though they may bring McDonald back for the practice squad, I kind of doubt it, but you never know.
Right. Deion says it could have been worse. They could have signed the likes of Brock Osweiler. So hey, yeah, you're right, Deion. It could have been a lot worse. And I think at the end of the day, it was a
let's
good
be
move
honest,
by J-Rob.
With some of the names that people were throwing out there before the training camp even got started, man, I was like, okay, I had forgotten all about Trevor Siemian, to be honest with, and DeShone Kizer. But I'm like, the names they're throwing out, like, you don't want any of those guys.
Right.
You don't want a Blake Bortles, man. He's not that type of quarterback. And we know from experience he's not that type of quarterback.
Right. And so, and with doing that, they also signed Jeff Swain, tight end, played for the Cowboys, had some experience there, Marcus Marshall and Krishan Hogan. Of course, they released Cole McDonald, Dalen Dawkins, Kyle Williams, and Parker Hess, tight end. And so, some movement, back of quarterback position is a little bit more stable now. Feel a little bit better, but we'll have to see what transpires from this offense. Like you said, he's more stationary, not as mobile, but with a good running game, your play action should help that out. Yeah,
and I would say probably the most curious move out of all of those really is Jeff Swain.
Yeah.
Bringing in another tight end. He played at Jacksonville, and I don't know if you're bringing him in just to make sure you get some push out, keep the position competitive. Don't let people get comfortable. People like Michael Pruitt or Anthony First can let them know that, hey, look, we're bringing somebody in that's going to push you, that's going to compete with you, and it just keeps everybody on their toes. Bottom line, that's what you want to do. Some players some positions you don't have to worry about that, but some positions you do, and that probably was one to where, because you don't have perennial all pros at the tight end position, so you got to bring that competition in. But it also keeps, for lack of a better term, it also keeps Kari Blasingame on his toes as well, because of the way they use tight end as far as a blocking back and never an H-back. So it keeps him on his toes as well.
Yeah, and we'll talk some more about Blasingame. He's been having some pretty good camps so far. They've been using him to run the ball, not only catching, but also running and blocking and so forth. So we'll talk a little bit more about him in just a minute. And so the next part, so some news came out about our number one draft pick this year. And, it's ironic that it came out and it happened, because you saw the prior week before that a rookie for the Seattle Seahawks got cut when he was trying to sneak a young lady into the hotel and got caught, and they cut him. And so if it had not been for that first round tag, we might have had some kind of issue here with Mr. Wilson, going to a college party. So he's a young guy. I get it. But considering the circumstances with the COVID-19 and they trying to prevent the spread of that, if you have any hopes for a football season, you've got to maintain social distance. I'll say it that way.
Absolutely. And let's just be real about it. I mean, you got to remember, he came out of college as a junior. So, it's like everybody says, I remember hearing a guy from the military who was a drill sergeant, and he was just talking about how young guys come in the military, they do stupid things, simply because they're young and they want to get out there and they want to try things. Well, he just learned a valuable lesson. Like you said, the number one pick, that having that tag probably helped him out more than it would, say, the guy like in Seattle who was an undrafted free agent.
Right.
But the one thing, like they said, they had a talk with him to keep it all internal. They're not putting anything out there. So, hey, lesson learned. The question is, who was the other rookie who was out there with him?
There's a rumor that Darrison Evans was with him, but his agent denied that.
They're denying it. Murchison's agent is denying it. So we don't know who the other rookie was. Nobody's saying. The police got him out of there, which, I would say this. If we hadn't made the AFC Championship game, it probably would have been all over the news. But because we did, and people want to keep this team together, I think they got a little free ride, just like they used to do back in the day when the Titans first moved to town.
Right. So,
I'm just putting it out there, man. It's no
man. It's this,
But on his part, that was not a smart move.
No,
let's call it what it is. It was a dumb move, because he should have been adhering, focusing on getting in the playbook, learning his position, and not worrying about going to a college party and everything. You ain't got time for that anyway. Right. You're in a professional league. So I'm pretty sure that after the management spoke with him and the coaches spoke with him, I'm sure his line mates actually sat him down and said, look, dude, you can't do this. You can't do that. I know you want to, but you can't. And I'm sure Taylor Lewan was probably the first one to talk to him.
Exactly. You saw Vaccaro and Kamara came back to practice, so that's good that those guys are back in practicing and getting in some reps. We're only several weeks away, and you'll have week one popping up before you know it. And a lot of things have got to take place before then. Of course, you got to make the cuts down to the 55-man roster. You got to get your schemes in. You got new guys playing in positions, and so it's a lot to work out. Vrabel got him in the stadium for some practices or Friday practice this past weekend, and so just to get him accustomed to being back in the stadium, especially for the new guys, and getting that feel of that atmosphere. Of course, it'll be without fans, and which they should already prepare for week one.
Exactly.
The first home game, anyway. Excuse me.
Yeah.
But yeah. So Deion says that he don't get into all the signings because he knows that J. Rob and Vrabel wants to continue to bring in competition and make people feel uncomfortable in their positions.
Exactly right. I mean, and let's just be real about it. That's what you need to do, because sometimes guys get too comfortable. They're not maximizing their effort. And you know which guys they are. I mean, in all honesty, you really do. Like I said, you may not have to do it for Derrick Henry because he's a workaholic anyway. He's going to always push himself. But, yeah, in the quarterback position, those backup running backs, absolutely. You need to push them. The tight end position, you need to push them. It's the same thing like don't be surprised if they do some things with the offensive line, because you got to let people know, hey, you could be gone at any time.
That's right.
You got to understand that. Same thing with the defense, and we'll get to the defense in a minute. But man, they said some good things about our man Big Jeff over there, Mr. Simmons.
I know, but since you brought him up, they say him and Taylor got into a little verbal altercation, nothing too major, but Jeffrey Simmons is a man amongst boys, if I can say that, out there dominating so far, moving good, and so it's just like we've been talking about, Grover, a healthy Jeffrey Simmons starting for the 2020 camp and getting a full camp in.
Yeah,
it's gonna be a difference for this defense.
Well, I always go back to the San Diego game last year, which was his first game. And what was it? His second play, he took the offensive lineman all the way back to the quarterback and tackled the running back for a 2-yard loss. And when you see something like that just off the bat,
right,
the man is violent with his hands. He's strong. He's quick. So I'm looking forward to watching how him, Daquan Jones, the guy we signed from Atlanta. I'm looking forward to seeing all of them and see how they work. Yeah. Looking forward to seeing how all of them work on that defensive line, because, like we said, if we can just get a natural push up the middle with the defensive line, that's going to make it a lot easier on the outside linebackers, Harold Landry and whoever's going to be on the other side, whether it be Mr. Walker or whoever. I'm not sure if Vic Beasley is going to be there or not. Although they did say they saw him on the practice field, he was riding a bike. So I don't even count that. So, right now I can't. I'm like Bill Parcells. I'm only talking about the people who practice.
Only the people who practice. That's right. Oh man! And so as we talk about the defense, let's talk about them a little bit, because somebody got their ankles broke today by Khalif Raymond, and that would be Malcolm Butler.
Yeah,
I mean, he really, that's a tough. And I ain't gonna say it shouldn't have happened, but it's a tough route to cover when you got a man running out and then running a cut back, right.
Do a cut, stop and cut back in.
But it was a great route. It was a great route,
and
he caught the ball. Again, main thing.
That's the main thing. But again, like we said, you see how difficult it is on these cornerbacks when you especially when you're trying to cover receivers in that short of a span, in that short zone. You got to be able to stay with them, and you got to be able to maintain your leverage. And you saw really what ends up happening on that play is that Michael Butler didn't maintain leverage on the inside. He gave it up, thinking he was going straight out and was going behind him, and he cut back. By the time he reacted, it was too late.
Touchdown. Hey, but
6 points.
Right, but that goes back to what we talked about last week about Khalif Raymond having an excellent camp so far, and he's making his claim for that number 4 receiver. Potentially number 3. It just you just never know what'll happen. But he's worked hard in the offseason. You can tell he's fast, he's quick, he's catching the ball, he's running good routes, and he's going to be a weapon for this offense.
Absolutely, and the thing you notice about Khalif, like you said, his route running in the short spaces is really what's standing out right now. And I know he's taking cues from Adam Humphries and everything, but like we said, he also could be that 4th receiver because let's put it like this: for this season, all it's going to take are 1 or 2 passes for people to remember what he did in the playoffs against Baltimore, and also what he did against Indianapolis and Kansas City with those long throws, and they know they're going to have to watch him over the top and everything because he's very good at getting separation on those deep runs and actually maintaining speed and giving Ryan Tannehill the freedom to really put the ball out there.
Right.
That's the one thing you notice about him, and he mentioned that in the interview that, one thing he figured out early was just keep his knees and his arms moving when he's done those routes. He said, because it's always easier to slow down than it is to speed up.
Right.
and I can't argue with him on that. I mean, so, if he has to slow down, he'll slow down. But to speed up, to keep that speed going, that's what gives him the ability to take the top off of defense.
Right. We kind of mentioned last week how the offense was getting the better of the defense is what we was reading. And so, it's now the defense is starting to catch up. Like we said, it take a few days. You got new coach in the secondary, new linebackers coach, and we don't know the terminology if it's the same. I'm sure it is, but the scheme might be just a little bit different from what Pease had, and so you see the defense now catching up. You see the DBs and receivers really battling in practice, and you like to see that. And some names that keep popping up: Kareem Orr, Chris Milton. So these are guys that are providing the depth in the secondary that's going to be needed going forward.
Absolutely, and again, they're going to provide depth on special teams as well. Because let's just be real about it, that's where they're going to really make the mark right now. If they have to be called on, you want them to be out there. But again, this is the one thing you hate about not having preseason games. Like I said, everybody hates it, but really, in all honesty, you got guys. At least you get out there, you get to see them. They get to see live game action against players they're not practicing against, because it's hard to tell what you need to work on if you're not going against guys you don't normally practice against. Because after a while, you get used to them. What they're going to do and everything.
Got a question by Lisa. Thank you, Lisa, for joining us tonight. Thank you for submitting your question. It says, do you think we keep 6 receivers on the roster this year? And so it's going to be tough. We got the 4, Brown, Davis, Humphries, and Raymond. And so the 5th one is still up in the air if it's going to be Batson, if it's going to be Hollister. You just never know. Keeping 6, I just don't see him keeping 6. I see him keeping 5 with 3 tight ends, possibly maybe 4 tight ends. It just depends. Well, 3 tight ends, and then you got Blasingame at fullback. Yeah. I just don't see him keeping 6 receivers this year.
Well, I would say like this. Really, it all depends on how they play on special teams. Again, the receivers that they keep are going to have to play special teams, whether it's returning punts or whether it's out there on the field tackling. So that's going to be the determining factor on whether we keep 5 or 6. We'll keep at least 5.
Yeah.
Generally, most teams would keep at least 6. The good thing about it is, again, you can have 16 people on the practice squad, and you can put some veterans on there. So you have an opportunity there as well. So it's just going to depend on the numbers game and all the other positions. But, probably no more than 3 tight ends. Like we said, 3 running backs plus Blasingame would be 4. And then, of course, you're going to keep at least 2 quarterbacks on the roster for every Sunday. Whether that's going to be Simeon or Woodside, we'll find out. But one guy they may keep 3 on the active roster and just keep inactivating 1 on game day. That's the only thing you can think of that may happen like that.
Right. And with the situation of the COVID-19 pandemic and the way that the NFL is conducting itself this year, so it's unprecedented with the numbers, right? You got a 55-man roster this year and 16 practice squads. So like you mentioned, it could be 6 receivers. based upon that number of bodies now you're able to carry on your active roster. So good question, Lisa. Thank you for that. We appreciate it. Dion says, what about the safety for Marshall, Mr. Jackson? I think it was last week, a week before last, he did make some plays in camp. Hadn't heard too much out of him, but again, there's a guy that's potentially going to be mainly contributing on special teams, starting off. You know, he did have a good career at Marshall, made some plays. He was a playmaker. He had some good stats. And so, you know, definitely special teams, you know, anything other than that, it'll probably be a surprise if it does happen.
Yeah, he's making some plays in camp and everything. But, again, it's just going to be a numbers game. You know, because here's the thing that as Titans fans, we got to say this year more than anything else, when you stop and think about it, there's not a lot of room, you know, on the squad, you know, for a lot of if, ands, or buts. I mean, because we have depth in pretty much every position. We're able to make it through. And that's going to be the determining factor. You know, it depends on how these guys perform. And, again, we're going to get used to this rotating roster because I'm pretty sure Robinson and Vrabel are going to be moving pieces in and out for until they get settled, like around about November.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And so, you know, one other person that's really sticking out is Derrick Henry, but you wouldn't expect anything less. The guy had a huge offseason, as you saw his workout videos. They say he looks more explosive at practice, which is scary for me. To me. And, you know, and then, you know, for the most part here, the last few practices anyway, they've been reporting is that he's been working in the sandpit in the second half of practice. So working on, you know, his movement, his footwork, you know, cutting, I'm sure, just getting that speed, that quickness of his feet. You imagine a guy that's that big and is already pretty fast, getting faster.
Well, you know, the thing you like about the, as we call him, the beast, man, is that he just keeps working. He doesn't take any time off. And basically what you see happening is Vrabel managing the players much like he did the previous 2 years, you know. Derrick Henry plays, you know, he practices the first half of practice, the second half of practice, he goes to the sand pit, he works on footwork. Rashad Evans did the same thing.
Right.
So, you know, what you find is that he's managing the players and trying to make sure everybody's going to be healthy for the first game, which is on the 14th, like we said, and it's only like 3 weeks away. So it's a lot going on with this, and they're just trying to get the team ready as best they can. And it's bottom line is going to be whoever's the healthiest is going to, you know, perform the best or have the best opportunities. You know, don't know about the winning and losing, but that's the way it's going to work out as far as the healthiest team is going to be the one that's going to make it through, especially that when you figure the first 8-week gauntlet we got to go through.
Boy, I tell you, it just doesn't get any tougher than that. As we look at the schedule, you know, in the earlier part of this year, we talked about that, the toughness of going to Denver and come back and getting an AFC South division game against a rival, the Jacksonville Jaguars. You know, you got the Steelers after that. You know, so it's just a lot of
the Vikings and the Steelers.
Yeah, the Vikings and the Steelers, and you got two of the top 5, top 10 defenses coming in the Vikings and the Steelers, and you got a tough Broncos defense with a motivated Jurrell Casey.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, it's going to be a tough start those first 8 games of the year. It's you know, hopefully you can get off to a good start and not end up by the bye week, you know, 3-4 or you know, whatever the case might be, 2-5.
Mm-hmm.
Got a question from Dion. Dion says, why is it that NFL teams don't allow why don't the NFL allow teams to have all 53 players active on game day? It never made any sense to him. And so, you know, what do you know about that, Grove? I was kind of trying to remember and think about, you know, the reasoning behind that. And go ahead.
I'll be honest with you, man. I really don't know the reasoning behind that. I really don't. And I think if I think of anything, I think it's more of a competition issue, competitive issue, I should say, where you got to make these choices and you got to play. And if you run into these issues where, say, like what happened with Kansas City when they played against us last year, mm-hmm. and they had 2 offensive linemen go down, they were down to 1 offensive lineman. Then they was going to have to make some. And it's just, to me, I think it's just that competitive side of it, to where you just can't load your team up, and you know. It keeps the competition balanced. That's the only reason I can think of. It's something we can look up, though.
Yeah, we'll definitely look it up, Dion. That's a great question because, like you said, it doesn't make any sense. You got a 53-man roster, and you can only have 4 to 6 active on game day. And so,
Right.
I mean, great question. We'll look it up, man, and we'll try to find some information. I'll be glad to get it back to you, if not through the messenger or the show. We'll get it back to you some kind of way.
Absolutely.
So talking about Isaiah Wilson a little bit, he had some issues with Mr. Murchison in practice. Got stood up a little bit. We talked about him having to get that bend, get that flexibility because he's a big guy, and how hard it would be for him if he were to get high, that he was going to get defensive linemen, as you read, as we read on the website, to get up under his pads, which happened for Mr. Murchison. So, it's something he's going to have to work on and get corrected really quick. And that's another reason why we talked about last week that we don't see him starting at the beginning,
Right.
at least the first 4 or 5 weeks of the season.
Right. And let's just be honest about it. Right now, everybody just might as well get used to this. Dennis Kelly's your starting right tackle, and that's not going to change. The thing to remember about Isaiah Wilson is that he's a young cat. The thing they like about him, he is coachable. Yeah. He'll make a mistake, and the coaches have pointed out to him, he'll get back and on the following play, won't make the same mistake again. The thing you like about him is he is a mountain of a man. And as far as the running game goes and being able to push all the way up and reset the line of scrimmage to the second level, hey, he's that type of guy. Where his weakness is as we said, is in pass protection, right, and understanding what he needs to do. Offensive linemen have to function on a cohesive basis. Everybody needs to know where they're stepping, making sure you got your man covered, knowing what you need to do. So it's just something without a preseason, without a regular off season, you just can't expect him to start. Like I said, it's going back to old school football. Basically, is what it is, and that rookies come in, rookies going to sit on the sideline and learn. I mean, the only 2 rookies really, well, I should say 3 that you might see is our boy DB out of LSU, Christian Fulton, Murchison, the defensive lineman. And also, Evans, Darrington Evans. Yeah. So, everybody else, they may be sitting on the sideline learning. They may be active, but they may just be sitting on the sideline ready to jump in whenever they need to and be playing special teams.
Right, and that's the side effect, like you said, of not having a preseason, not having those games to really get a good evaluation of the talent that you brought in. During the out season. Another name, Grover, that keeps popping up, man, is Adoree Jackson. Adoree Jackson, they said he's playing physical. He's matching up with A.J. Brown in practice. He's all over him. He's tight coverage. And so you like to hear that. Again, we talked about him last week about how that really started to ramp up toward the end of the season last year and through the playoff run, that we saw him take his game to another level.
Yeah.
As far as coverage-wise, and he continues to do so in 2020 so far.
Yeah, and like we said, the only flaw you really find in his game, in all honesty, if you're going to find one, is the fact that he just doesn't have the turnovers. He has the pass breakups. He has good coverage. We've seen that his skill set really ever since he was a rookie. Right. Whereas he covers well, knows how to play the position. Like you said, now you see him in practice being more physical at the point of attack and everything, and he was already physical when the ball came his way. So the only flaw in his game right now is the turnovers. I mean, he just doesn't have, and I think he only has like 1 interception for the entire time he's been here. But again, starter, ready to go, and he's going to be good, man. I mean, I don't think they have him taking any special team reps right now as far as punt return or kick return. Mm-hmm. So that's just leaving him wide open to play the corner position. He's willing to do it. Again, he's talking about actually going inside, taking the slot position on 3rd downs. So, that's a very physical position. We already know he tackles well. Yeah. He tackles extremely well, So he had a few misses last year, but you saw after that, the Kansas City game, he really locked it down. So, yeah, I'm expecting big things. Like I said, the only really Malcolm Butler concerns me. Again, and for him, it's just a technique issue. If it's a physical play, he's going to always be there. But technique-wise, that's where he struggles. And who else are going to play in that slot position or that nickel position? Christian Fulton, I don't know. He's a rookie. That's a lot to take in. Not to say that he doesn't have the football intelligence to do it, but that's a lot to take in for a rookie. Amani Hooker, is another guy who might be able to slide in there and do that. And we hadn't said anything about Dane Cruikshank, but he's a special team guru right now. So
right.
he's really showing out on special teams. So he's going to be there. So it's going to be interesting to watch that cornerback, that secondary position. Like I said, other than when you figure the starters, you just don't know who's going to come in and play nickel.
Right. You mentioned Hooker, and I think that's a liable candidate as well, Grover. Between him and Malcolm Butler and Jonathan Joseph, those three, one of those guys will fill that position. And I think we got some pretty good candidates there. Now, what does Jonathan Joseph bring to the table? A lot of experience, a lot of boxing. He's a tough cornerback. He doesn't have the speed that you would want. He could kind of play in that same mold as Logan Ryan, I would say. I don't know if he's as good of a tackler as Logan Ryan was. I can't remember him doing too much last year when we played him, but running probably the other way from Derrick Henry.
Yeah. But, the thing about it is, even with Jonathan Joseph, when they signed him, we knew, you're bringing him in to just actually be another coach on the field. Right. Having the younger guys to understand what they need to do. You bring a pro in like that, he teaches the young guys how to practice, right. how to study the playbook, how to make sure you're always in the right position. So that's what he brings. His experience, just like Logan Ryan, is very strong. He knows the game in and out. He could play the nickel position, but again, you're basically replacing. I would say like this: you're replacing Logan Ryan with a cheaper Logan Ryan, and maybe not the I would say the quickness at the point of attack that Logan Ryan's had. Logan Ryan had good quickness when it came to getting to the quarterback and when it came to covering tight ends or running backs out the backfield on some of them. Right. But it's just that when he had to cover those corners, those receivers, he just could not keep up, which is why he's also trying to be a safety right now.
Exactly. So got some more comments, Grove. Let's get those in. So Ryan Walker says if Nate Davis can come along where he left off the second half of the season and into the playoffs, the offensive line will dominate. So Nate Davis has made some headlines during camp. They said he's bigger, he's stronger, he's more physical. So totally agree with you, Ryan, that he comes in and year two and continues to dominate and take his game to the next level. As you mentioned, his offensive line will be solid.
Hey, let's. I always tell people, we said it last year. He had to cut him some slack. I mean, for a guy who won a rookie, missed all of training camp with an injury, ended up getting thrown into the guard slot, and he had to learn on the fly. Like you said, by the end of the season, he was doing pretty good. Still making a few mistakes here and there, but let's be honest about it. His conditioning wasn't really there, and that's one of the things that Vrabel is talking about right now with the rookies. Their conditioning, it's you got to understand the game is long. It takes a lot out of you. Yep. Nate Davis will be fine. I think he's going to be great this year because he actually said he's a little bit leaner too. Yep. So that's the thing about it. So that means he's coming up the ball a lot quicker. And again, that offensive line is actually moving, and Derrick Henry is actually running. Because bottom line is we want to run the ball.
Oh yeah.
They brought out a stat on the NFL Network that I didn't realize. They said we ran the third fewest plays last year on offense and everything, but they attributed a lot of that because we also had a lot of big plays.
That's right. How many times can you say the Titans have big play team, big play potential, and not capitalize on it? It hadn't been much here in the last few years, but here in the last couple years, you've seen, especially last season, you've seen the big play potential finally come to reality.
Yeah, absolutely. Other than really when you stop and think about it, other than the running back, we having those running backs who could break long ones and everything, we really didn't have receivers that could get out there and make big plays. And now A.J. Brown, Khalif Raymond, even Corey Davis, he can get out there and make big plays as well. And, I saw a film clip on him on one play. I forgot who, I guess Carolina. He broke the guy's ankle, had a 4-yard cushion on him, but the ball was underthrown, so he had to come back and get it. So, they all have that big play potential. It's just a matter of making sure you can get it out there and get it to them.
Right, and Corey Davis, since he's been back in practice, he's been having a good camp. They said he's been going across middle, catching balls, running good routes, and so contract year for him, and so he's got to come out and perform, and because that's going to determine if he stays with this team or his future for any other team. Lisa Smith says, if we just keep Adoree' away from receiving punts, please, because her heart can't take it anymore. Dion says he's been banging on the table. He wants Adoree' to go back to punching the ball out like he was during his rookie season. He said he was doing it at first, but now he's just stopped for some unknown reason.
Well, I would say on that one, really, it's the same thing you saw Vrabel talk about last year. Your first job as a cornerback, really, in all honesty, is to break up the play. And if they catch the ball, if you punch it out, that's fine. But make sure you make the tackle.
Uh-huh.
That's the thing. That's the difference. I mean, it's like when you go back to that Oakland game last year. I think it was Kaluta who I can't remember who it was that punched the ball out.
Yeah.
And Jayon Brown picked it up and ran it back.
Ty Smith.
Yeah, Ty Smith. Uh-huh. But the one thing Vrabel said about it was, yeah, he punched the ball out, but more importantly, he was making the tackle while he was doing it. And so that's what they want to make sure, and that's the main thing. Make the tackle first.
Right.
And punch the ball out in the process, but without a doubt, make the tackle. And so that's something, again, that Adoree', his issue is right now, if I don't stop it, I'm making the tackle. 3, I'll punch the ball out. I mean, they're trying. Don't get me wrong. He's trying. He just hasn't been able to do it.
Yeah. And Ryan Walker says Corey had a heck of a catch where he got pushed, he slid, and still out into the ball. That we saw that. We saw that. Ryan, right, man. He's like I said, ever since he's been back off the PUP list, he has been performing well in camp. He's been making all the catches, running the routes, being physical. And so, like I said, when it comes to contract year, guys tend to step it up and play at another level. And so let's just hope he can do that for 16 games and even into the playoffs. And so,
and again, you want to stay healthy. I mean, playing wide receiver with a turf toe or whatever it was, there's not a whole lot you can do. Grant, give him his props. He never complained about it, never said a word about it, and still went out there and played and performed. So, I'm glad to see him back.
I do too, and I'm glad to see he's healthy and getting into that form that we would expect him to be at, being a number 5 pick, a few years ago. And so, hopefully, it translates over to week 1 and beyond, like we said, man. And it's this it's crazy that we're talking about Corey Davis not even possibly making his team after this season. So,
well, here's the thing about it. Corey Davis it won't be that he won't make the team. It's just that they can't agree on a contract.
Right.
Somebody else might pay him a lot of money, and we just might say we ain't doing it. Because the bottom line is they want him back. I mean, you really, when you stop and think about it, Corey Davis is the best all-around receiver. He's not a number 1 receiver, but he's the best all-around receiver. He does all the things you really are looking for in your receivers, especially one with his size and everything. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with that contract negotiation going into next season. But right now, I'm just glad to have him back on the sideline. And like we said, we're talking about what we talked about last year with you got A.J. Brown, you got Corey Davis, you got Adam Humphries. You run 3 receivers out there, plus a tight end, whether it's going to be Jonnu Smith or Anthony Fursko, which is your 4th receiver, and a good running back that can block. That's 5 receivers. You got a lot of opportunities for the offense to make some plays.
Right, and then you got a fullback that's
absolutely
caliber that we have that can run the ball as well as catch the ball, and they really love him. They love his versatility, and said that you could potentially see some blessing game carries this year.
Yeah,
and so you got a lot of weapons on this offense, a solid offensive line, and a solid quarterback that can. Get the ball down the field, get the ball in tight spots, as we saw in the San Diego game when he fit the ball in a tight window for Corey Davis in the end zone. And so, sky's the limit, I would say, for this offense. Is the only thing that can slow him down is injury and not have the – I mean, you got to face it, man, injury or you can't effectively run block. If you can't run the ball with this football team, this team will struggle to move the football because that's the number one thing for this team. It's a running football team.
Well, that and the fact that, your defense is going to be able to get off the field on third down. One of the main issues we had last year was the fact that the defense simply just could not get off the field on third downs. They had plenty of opportunities, but it would either be a missed tackle here or they would make the tackle, stop them short, and get a penalty, right. Or get a pre-snap penalty and give it up. Or, and you just can't have that. The defense has got to be able to get to stop them on third down, make them punt the ball to the offense, and let the offense do its job. If our defense can do that consistently next year, yeah, you're exactly right. With the offense that we have, the sky's the limit because, again, it's just like they've been talking about on the NFL Network. They asked them what could a team do. They said, I forgot who it was. I can't remember if it was LaDainian Tomlinson or Maurice Jones-Drew, but he said, hey, man, look. He said the Titans, they go through the first half of the season and come out in pretty good shape. He said, by the time you get to November and December, he said, don't nobody want to tackle somebody running at them at 247 pounds, 6'4", in the wintertime when it's real football. They don't want to do that.
Running a 4.5. Who wants to tackle that? That's a great point.
And again, that's what we've been saying ever since we drafted him. He's just one of them guys. He just gets stronger as the game goes on, and he gets stronger as the season goes on. I mean, and that's going to be the whole key. And the funny thing about it to me, everybody talks about explosive offenses and things of that nature, but have you noticed how more teams are looking for that running back that's going to be able to carry them through the season and everything?
Right. And to that point, Grove, is like the running back was like a fossil, right?
Yeah. They were saying nobody needs a running back.
Quarterback-driven league, and we're going to throw the ball 100 times a game and score 100 points a game. And no. You know how it was. I mean, it was so close to the Titans getting to the Super Bowl last year with that formula. Now, people, like you said, in the playoffs, if you can play solid defense, get off the field on third down, and run the football, your formula is great. That's right. And if it wasn't for a few plays against the Kansas City Chiefs, let's just put it out there. If it wasn't for a few plays, that game would have turned in favor for the Titans, and they would have been in the Super Bowl.
Exactly right. And I mean, but seriously, go back and think about it. Look at who Green Bay drafted. Look at who Indianapolis drafted. As far as running backs are concerned. Yeah, they may not have picked them up in the first round, but they drafted top-notch running backs because they realized. I mean, and we showed the blueprint. You got to be able to run the ball. It's fundamental football, baby. You got to be able to run it. Now, I'm interested to see how this offense is going to look and what Arthur Smith is going to do because our receivers, we got good receivers. Again, we said it last year. I say it again this year. This is the most talented group of receivers that we've ever had with the Titans. So I'm interested to see if they can take that next step, that next level, so for us to actually get to the big dance, get to the Super Bowl, man. I mean, because if they do that, then that's going to take pressure off of Derrick Henry, and that's going to just open up this offense even more.
Right. I got some comments, Grove. I want to get them in real quick. So Dion says Blasting Game's going to be the X factor in the offense this year. He's a secret weapon nobody prepared for, excellent hands, and makeshift running back. Marcus Ware, we agree with you, Dion, 100% that Blasting Game is going to be a difference maker in this offense this year.
Well, my thing with Blasting Game, what I want to see in all honesty, I want to see how he does in short yardage situations.
Yes.
Because if he's good enough, if he can do short yardage situations, you think about it with him and Derrick Henry in the backfield on a short yardage situation, that means that's a lot of wear and tear that's taken off of Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
And you got somebody else who can get you those 1-2 yards on 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, 4th and 1, 4th and 2, things of that nature. And plus on 2-point conversions, he's another ad because people won't be expecting.
Exactly. Will says, and we can't be giving up no 3rd and 30s either. So that's right. Lisa says, Corey is a perfect receiver for how we play offense. He's definitely a team-first guy. Unfortunately, you won't see it in his stats, but he does everything he's asked of. including blocking. And so,
yeah.
yes, Lisa, good comment again, Lisa. We definitely agree with you that Corey Davis is not getting the credit where credit is due for his run blocking. He is probably one of the better run blocking receivers in the NFL. He did an outstanding job. You look at a lot of the run plays last year that Derrick Henry had broke big time on. You see the key block was who? Corey Davis. You look at the 99 run he had against Jacksonville. Who was down there? Corey Davis. And
who almost got stiffed on by Derrick.
Right. So great.
But here's the thing. So you know, and I go back to when we had our conversation with Joey Kent earlier this year.
Yep.
You know, the thing about it is he's good at that, and absolutely, like I said, he's the best all-around receiver we got right now. But as a receiver, that's not what you want to be known for.
That's right.
You don't want to be known just, you know, how great of a blocker you are, even though that's important. That's why I say with somebody like Corey Davis, the media's not going to be high on him. You know, other players might not be high on him. But I guarantee you coaches and general managers are very high on him, and they're looking at him like, we could use him.
Oh, man, looking at chops, right?
Yeah, I mean, you know, let's be honest about it. I mean, he's a great all-around player, and he's going to have he should have a pretty good career, and I'm just hoping it's with us.
I definitely hope it's with us, because you imagine having him and A.J. Brown as a duo, you know, for
That's what I'm saying.
Of the prime of their careers. That'll be an outstanding match. You got two big body guys that can run, that can catch, and that can block. And so, you know, you really got some dominant guys that you hadn't seen a team have a pair of receivers of that caliber or potential of that caliber in a while in the NFL.
Yeah.
So, guys, we thank you for joining us again for another episode of Halftime Adjustments. Eddie Arnell, G-Wit, Tighten Up. Training camp information, you know, it's here. We got a few more weeks left. September 14th can't come quick enough for the first game of the year.
Right.
And you know, it's here, man. It's here, and we're excited. And I'm so appreciative of the Titans giving us just a little peek into the practices that they had online today. And so you was able to see a little bit of camp today and see some things, and you know, see a little action, but not too much.
Yeah. You get to see a little bit of the individual drills.
Yeah.
And some of that going on, but you really don't get to see a whole lot, unfortunately. You don't get to see the team drills or anything like that. And I think actually this is the last week for them to be able to show any kind of practices and everything, because this would be the third week of the preseason. So that would just basically end camp, you know, as far as that's concerned. And they would be getting ready for the regular season. So it might be this week, sometime middle of this week might be their last broadcast. I think they got at least one or two more practices that they're going to show. But yeah, it like you said earlier, man, it's the money time right now. You're only 3 weeks away from the start of the season, and we're going to go to Denver and play in that stadium with no fans. So, hey, look, at least it's in September. It could be worse.
Right.
if it was in December with no fans in that bad boy and that wind coming off those mountains.
Right. Exactly. Deion, you're so right, man. Deion, he says 2 big receivers with Jonnu hurting the DBs downfield along with King Henry crashing through. That's a brutal offense. You're exactly right.
Yeah.
We can keep that core with that offensive line. Hey, man, it's going to be tough to deal with. You got to think back to the old Cowboys in the early 90s when they had that beastly offensive line. You had Emmitt Smith, you had Michael Irvin, you had Harper out there, and you had Troy and Novacek at tight end. So, you got the makings of a similar type of offense.
Well, and that's the thing about it. It's just about putting it all together. Like Vrabel said, it's about getting it all together and being able to string them together. And, you know, let's be honest about it. You want to win the division, get some home games during the playoffs, because as we said, going on the road is tough. You know, we saw it's easier. I will say this: it's easier for a running team, but even after that, it still starts to take its toll. Mm-hmm. And like you said, with the exception of a few plays against Kansas City, that game could have easily gone another way. Yep. So it's just going to be one of them things, man. Like I just can't wait to see what's going to happen and hopefully, again, if we come out to the good in September and October and ready for November and December, because again, it's gonna be some tough sledding, man. We got a tough schedule. People don't realize it.
And I agree with you wholeheartedly. Like we mentioned earlier, and doing our schedule review show, when we broke it down in those 4 shows, the defenses that alone that we have to face, those top 10 defenses in those first 8 games, it's amazing to me how you can say that schedule is not that tough. Those experts. You got some of the top-notch defenses week in and week out with some of the best NFL players. You got Khalil Mack and all those guys, man. It's amazing to even try to imagine how you even have to match up with these guys each and every week. But we got an offensive line, we got a running back, and we got a quarterback that can throw the ball. So I think the scales are even as you look at it that way.
Yeah.
But it's going to be a challenge, like you said. It's going to be a challenge, and if we can go to that bye week at 500 or better, I think the sky's the limit for the rest of the season.
Absolutely, and let's remember too, we got to wait and see what's going to happen. How Arthur Smith is going to be calling plays. I mean, granted, he had a great rookie season, but like I said, you're going to get some top-notch defensive coordinators, top-notch defenses. So they're going to try to take away what you do best. Let's see how you go against it. I mean, you're going to get some top-notch defensive lines, man. Pittsburgh, Buffalo, Minnesota,
Chicago,
Houston, Chicago. I mean, Indianapolis defensive line is not that shoddy.
Well, they added Forrest Buckner, right? So
yeah, and really we got to go to Baltimore. So we really don't know how things are going to work out. And if, like I said, if we come through and we good to go in November, then yeah, the sky's going to be the limit for us. That's for sure.
At least when we play Baltimore, you don't have to worry about Earl Thomas running that trap anymore.
Well,
I think what Will said earlier, the last play that we'll see about Earl Thomas is that he got stiff arm twice.
It's so funny that everybody fans are posting on Facebook about Earl Thomas got he got released by the Ravens and the Titans going to sign him to be an extra blocker for Derrick Henry.
Oh man, y'all are brutal out there. Brutal.
Yeah, it's rough.
But the main thing, man, is that if we can get past these soft tissue injuries, that's the only thing that really concerns me. And because you know how it is with not going through actual game speed. It's tough that when you start going that full speed in the actual contest. Those soft tissue injuries can occur, hamstrings, calf muscles, the works. And so that's the only thing that really concerns me about injury-wise is those opportunities that are out there because of the lack of proper training camp, if you will.
Well, and again, my biggest concern is more for the younger guys as opposed to the vets that's on the team because they, for lack of a better term, they are used to it. Mm-hmm. Again, we may see some things, but the one thing that I'm always concerned about, especially with rookies, and you heard A.J. Brown talk about it, at the end of the season, really, he was about done.
Yeah.
The rookie wall is real. And, and these guys, you already see where Isaiah Wilson is having to work on his conditioning. Christian Fulton's got to work on his. Right. I mean, because people don't realize how tough and how fast the game is, how tough it is, and how long it is. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. Right. So, learning how to practice and learning how to go full speed, half speed, things of that nature, and learning what to do and not to do. It's just – and learning how to take care of your body.
Right.
Bottom line is learning how to take care of your body.
And that you just think about it this way, Grover. So since – the draft happens at the end of April. So you take out from May all the way up to now, and you miss all that work, all those OTAs and things that would have taken place. So now, you got guys that hadn't gone through the stuff, like you said. And by this point in time, they would have gone through a lot of team workouts, a lot of, drills and so on and so forth. But we didn't get that this offseason. So, again, it's going to be a learning curve for the rookies to learn how to take care of their bodies, which is the main thing, and conditioning. And so we'll see, man. Like I said, it's going to be a grind. It's a different season so far, yes. And we'll see what happens. But
and like we said, everybody's going through it, so it ain't just us.
That's right. Hey,
it's the whole league.
You know, somebody mentioned last week, and I can't remember who it was, that the first 2 weeks are going to be the preseason. And you probably right. You'll see some sloppy football. You think about it, because you don't have any live action that you hadn't had yet, and you're going to go into week 1 with no scrimmage type environments, no tackling, no live. You can block, but you can't tackle. And that's going to be the big difference, tackling and things of that nature.
And don't forget this caveat too. Referees haven't refereed a football game yet. They haven't got the kinks worked out.
Yeah, I'll have to tell you about those kinks after this is over. It is rough. I'm going to tell you, when you don't have any scrimmages, I just know personally, if you don't have any scrimmages or anything like that to get ready, it takes you a little bit to get warmed up in those games as you get started up. So
yeah. And that's all I'm saying, you know. People are going to, fans are going to get used because they're going to see some rough calls, man. You're going to see some rough calls. You know,
the other thing that concerns me, Grover, is that the uncertainty, and I say uncertainty, I say it this way for a reason. The uncertainty of who's going to be the other starting DB on the outside and who's going to play the slot. So there's a lot of question marks there. You know, is it Malcolm Butler? Is it, who's going to play inside? If Malcolm Butler plays outside, who's going to play inside? So we got to get that solidified. Again, we won't know until week 1 and you see the starting roster, this depth chart come out of who's going to play where. And that's the only other thing. And then if we can get a healthy Vic Beasley, are we going to see a Vic Beasley of 2016 or 2015? Or are we going to see the guy that, can't pass his physical, going to stay hurt and blah, 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 blah.
I like I said, I don't know. My whole thing, I'm pulling a Bill Parcells right now. I'm only talking about players who practice. There's no need in bringing his name up because he ain't practicing. Ain't no need in talking about him. I mean, let's move on. They cut Josh Smith this week, and the other linebackers who have coming in, they've been making plays. So, like I said, I take the mindset of, I have to go with the mindset of the GM and the coach. We're talking about the players who are on the field. Ain't no need in bringing up anybody else because we're not talking about them. They're not on the field. We can't talk about them.
Thank you guys for joining us on another episode. I guess you heard that of Halftime Adjustments.
That's right.
We tighten up, man.
Tighten up, baby.
So, and I'm gonna end the show on this note. So there's some rumors out there for some big happenings this week. So we'll see. That's all I'm gonna say. That's all I'm gonna say.
Okay, let's leave it at that.
That's all I'm gonna say.
Let's leave it at that.
That's all I'm gonna say.
Okay. I got you. I'm with you.
Hey guys, thank you again for the support, the love, the show. If you like it, share it. If you don't like it, let us know that too. Let us know we can do better.
That's right.
Get us out there, share it with your friends. Again, we got a YouTube channel, H/T Adjustments. You can join us there, of course. You can always follow us on Facebook as well at Halftime Adjustments.
Absolutely.
Appreciate the support and all the comments and questions. And join us next Sunday, 7 p.m. Y'all know the time, regular season. We're back on Sunday nights at 7 p.m. So join us and get your questions in, get your comments, and we'll really appreciate it. Eddie Arnell, my man G Witt for Halftime Adjustments.
Tighten up, baby.
Tighten up. Peace.
Peace.